The regular season is complete and it's tournament time for North Dakota State. Hello and welcome to the Bison Basketball Show. I'm Brian Shawn. The road to Sioux Falls ends this coming weekend with the Summit League tournament, and both the NDSU men's and women's teams were still playing for seeding this past week. Dave Richman and company wrapped up the season with a pair of road games starting with Western Illinois. NDSU looking to beat WIU for the 11th straight time, but it would be an uphill struggle, with the Leathernecks starting the game on a 16-3 run. Dalen Ankrum off the screen, able to get to the rim for two. He scored 23 points, including 10 from the free throw line. The Bison would answer with an 8-0 run to get back into the game. Paul Miller backing down his man and scoring with the short jumper. Then with under 3 minutes to go in the first half, Cameron Hunter hesitates and pulls the trigger for three, getting the friendly roll. He added 9 points for the Bison as Western Illinois took an 8-point lead at halftime. In the second half, North Dakota State chipping away. Miller again to his right, able to muscle in two more. He scored a team-high 27 points in 37 minutes. With under 5 minutes to go, the lead is trimmed to 3 as Tyson Ward picks up the loose ball inside and flips it high off the window. He chipped in with 14 points, but Western Illinois would go on an 8-0 run to pull away late. Freshman Isaac Johnson had a game-high 29 points and 10 rebounds, 2 on this lay-in with 1:34 to go. As the Leathernecks hold on to an 82-74 win. Western Illinois was just 1 of 9 from three-point range, but had 41 free throw attempts compared to just 23 for NDSU. The Bison look to rebound at Omaha and with a victory could secure the 5 seed in the conference tournament. NDSU coming out firing from long range. A.J. Jacobson hitting from the top of the key. He had 10 first half points as the Bison jump out to a 5-point lead. Later, Cameron Hunter comes up with the steal and takes it all the way in for the lay-in. He also hit 5 3-pointers in the contest and scored 17 points. Tyson Ward also chipped in with 16 points and 8 rebounds. He follows his own miss and lays it back up and in, plus the foul, as the lead grows to 18. Paul Miller also hit 7 of his first 8 shots, including 2 on this runner in the lane with just over a minute to go in the half. North Dakota State took a 46-33 lead into the locker room. Omaha would make a run early in the second half. J.T. Gibson working himself free for the open triple. The Mavericks hit 9 threes in the game, but they could not slow the Bison down. Ward driving, finding Nebraska native Jared Samuelson. He was 4 of 5 from outside the arc and added 12 points off the bench. And NDSU goes on to pull away down the stretch. Ward posting inside, finishing with the jam, and the Bison roll to the 84-62 victory. The Herd hit 13 three-pointers in the game, giving them some confidence heading into the conference tournament. The Bison will tip off in the evening session on Sunday in the quarterfinals against Fort Wayne at 6 p.m. Stick with us after the break. Dave Richman reflects on the Bison's final road trip and previews their game against the Mastodons.
The Bison Basketball Show on Midco Sports Network is presented by Nodak Insurance Company, Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, and Proceed.
Welcome back. We are now joined by NDSU men's basketball coach David Richman to talk about the Bison's past week down in Omaha and Western Illinois and look ahead to the Summit League tournament this coming weekend in Sioux Falls. And Dave, first of all, I know going on the road to finish up these last 2 games, you're just hoping to see your guys build on some things that you've been working on over the last month. I know Thursday probably not the easiest game to go through, but Saturday the guys responded in a big way, and I thought maybe played their best game in the month of February.
Yeah, certainly, and you go back to Thursday's game at Western, where always a tough place to play for the most part, and again, a little bit like you and I just talked about off air, a microcosm of our season. Just couldn't put all the pieces together. Had different guys start to play a little bit better. I thought we defended in stretches. I thought we made some adjustments offensively and got some things going, but we didn't have the start we wanted. I have a couple guys just not have the games that they're capable of having, and thus it ends up with the result it was. Very frustrating, very disappointing as you go on the road and you hope to get a couple to build into the conference tournament, but very encouraged of how our guys responded. We had a little meeting Friday morning and had a quick travel day and just a quick turnaround, all things considered, to play 1 o'clock Central against Omaha, and came out and it was great to see some shots going in. I thought our guys really fed off some confidence and kind of kept it going. Omaha, like you'd expect on senior day, kind of made a push in that second half, but we made a really big push back, and we talked about it. It was going to be a game of runs. We made a couple threes and stretched it back out, and really pleased with both ends of the court. We shot the ball better than we had been, which was really encouraging. But to hold an Omaha team who's a high-level offensive team to under 1 point per possession was fun and encouraging. And
I think no matter how you want to slice it and dice it, there was a lot on the line. There was seating on the line. You lose, you're playing Saturday in the afternoon, at evening session. You win, and you're all the way up to the 5 seed. Giving yourself an opportunity on Sunday. I mean, there was a lot to play for the way things shook out. You never quite knew, but at the same time, the 5 seed, all in all, not that bad. No, and it's crazy, and certainly disappointing from a record standpoint. You wash those records out now, and we're all 0-0. And it's funny you bring that up. We never really talked about any of that stuff. I think the bigger thing for us was just that, us going into the tournament playing well. We knew what we were capable of. We knew what we are capable of because we've done different things. And when we've played in good moments and good stretches, it's just, it seems like there's just been a leak here or there for the better part of the season. And what was really encouraging is when that leak started to happen on Saturday, we responded, plugged it, and then built our own little lead as well. So, it's encouraging, and hopefully that momentum will carry over into a great week of practice because we're going to need it against a good Fort Wayne team. Talking about Fort Wayne, Dave, just saw them not that long ago here in Fargo. Obviously playing much, much better here over the last month with John Conchar getting healthy and some of their pieces coming together. But you've been right with them in both games. It's come down to the last 5 minutes, just like a lot of your games have. Yeah, exactly. Thanks for the reminder. No, you go back to, I thought we played very well in the first half at their place, and they missed some shots. We were able to get Bryson Scott in some foul trouble, but they came out and scored 50-some in the second half, and that's just not good enough anytime you play. And same thing a little bit like our Western game. They came out at home against us a couple weeks ago, and it's 25-13, boom, before we can even blink. And our transition defense was just, let me just say it politically correct as best I can, not very good. And it just kind of went from there, where we made a big push back and got it to a couple possessions, but we're never able to get over that hump. So I will say this, and I think Mike Dom's obviously really talented, but John Conchar's playing as well as anybody in the league, and he's just so versatile, where he's shooting it a lot better than he ever has. Almost 6+ assists per game down the stretch here too, and he's got great size and athleticism, and some of those other guys are really feeding off of him. So we're going to certainly have our hands full Sunday evening, and we're well aware of that. All right, Dave, we wish you best of luck. Thanks for the time, and we'll see you down in Sioux Falls. Fun time of year. We're excited. It is. Stay with us here on the Bison Basketball Show. Maren Walseth and the Bison women had 2 home games to round out the regular season. We'll recap that after this. The North Dakota State women hosted Western Illinois and Omaha in Fargo to close out its regular season schedule. The Bison still on the bubble of playing either Saturday or Sunday in Sioux Falls, depending on the results this past weekend. They got things started with the Leathernecks. The Bison looking to snap a 7-game losing streak to the Leathernecks, and a quick start for the home team. Tyra Spencer feeding Riley Jacobson just inside the free throw line for the short jumper as NDSU leads 9-2. Michelle Geislerova also provided a huge spark off the bench, working off the screen, drilling the 3, but Geislerova not done. She hit 4 triples total in the first 20 minutes and scored 16 of her team-high 21 points in the first half. Western Illinois would go on a mini spurt to take the lead going into the locker room. Morgan Bloomer, the steal, up to Emily Clemens, and she cruises in for 2. Clemens had a game-high 24 points and also added 7 assists. Bison down 1 at halftime. In the second half, NDSU still hanging around, down 5 as Taylor Thunstedt gets free for the long 3-pointer. That trims the lead to 2. The Bison continued to feed their sophomore post. Out in transition, Sarah Jacobson able to dish inside to Riley Jacobson. She had a double-double with 19 points and 16 rebounds on the night. But the Leathernecks pull away with an 11-0 run to put North Dakota State away for good. Taylor Higginbotham tapping it away from Thunstedt. That leads to an easy run out on the other end as Higginbotham finishes with the lay-in. Western Illinois secures the 3 seed in Sioux Falls, 77-60 the final. The Bison shot just 31% in the second half, while the Leathernecks hit all 11 of their free throws. The Bison wrapped up the regular season against Omaha in Taylor Thunstedt's final home game. Tyra Spencer cutting inside, getting the pass from Sarah Jacobson for the lay-in as the Bison grab an early lead. In the second quarter, after trailing by 4, NDSU going on a run, Riley Jacobson dropping it off to Thunstedt, who slices inside for another lay-in. She had a team-high 14 points. Then it's Thunstedt's turn, snapping a pass inside to Jacobson for 2 more. She added 10 points and 9 rebounds as North Dakota State builds a 4-point lead going into the locker room. Late third quarter, Bison hanging on to the lead. Michelle Geislerova bowling her way inside and finishing with the tough lay-in. 50-47 game going into the fourth quarter. After an Omaha run to go up 3, Sarah Jacobson using the screen and hitting the long three-pointer to tie it up at 57 with under a minute to go. With time winding down, the Mavericks' leading scorer, Amber Vidal, driving right and hitting the pull-up baseline jumper for the lead with just 2.7 seconds left. She had 15 points on the day. NDSU one last chance, but Riley Nudell's lob pass to the lane is tipped away, and Omaha would hang on in a hard-fought contest, 59-57, to earn the 6th seed for the Summit League tournament. The Bison, hitting just 6 of 20 from three-point range, will play 2 seed South Dakota State in Sioux Falls.
It's really tough to win close games, and we've been in a lot of close games that have slipped away a lot, so I think we really just have to work to get that 10-point lead or whatever, so we have some cushion and we don't have to make the game come down to what it did today.
We're going to get down there and we're going to have a chance to upset. So hopefully we can just play our game, and we really have nothing to lose, so we just got to go down there and play hard.
Before tip-off on Saturday, North Dakota State honored Taylor Thunstedt in the final home game of her career. The Spicer, Minnesota product scored nearly 1,400 career points and leaves as the program's all-time leader in three-point field goals made.
I mean, it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I told myself I wasn't going to cry, and watching that video, it really made me tear up. So having my family here was awesome too, and it's just really an experience that hasn't really sunk in yet, but I'm sure it will be here pretty soon, and it is what it is, but it's definitely bittersweet.
We now welcome in Maren Walseth to chat about the Bison women's past week at home, plus look ahead to the Summit League tournament this coming weekend as the Bison get set to take on rival South Dakota State. And first of all, Coach, when you look back at this last week, 1-point game against Western Illinois, great start up 9-2. Another game, you ran out and got a nice run on Omaha in the second quarter and the third quarter. But again, it comes down to those final 10 minutes and a play here and a play there, and all of a sudden they had to be a couple of L's, but they were competitive, good, fun games to watch.
I was very pleased with our first half and a chunk of our second half against Western. I really thought the players focused on the game plan, were committed to the game plan, and like you said, just a play here or a play there. And then you fast forward to Omaha. Again, it comes down to execution, both on the offensive end and the defensive end. And there was a chunk of time that it just didn't go our way.
That may have been your best defensive week in a while. I mean, Western Illinois, a team that loves to put points on the board, and I know they were able to run out and get some points late, but you really held the Leathernecks at bay at only 30 first half points.
I think a lot of that goes down again to the scout and our players' discipline to be committed to transition defense, and then kind of what we were looking for in the half court defensively of allowing different looks and really protecting that three-point line.
When you go back against Omaha, again, these are experiences you look and say you can go back in teaching moments on film and say, boy, if we do this, this, and this, we probably come out of a victory on that. I'm sure the players see that too, where they're like, we just have, even Tyra Spencer said it, we just have to find a way to get over the hump on these close games, and that's a tough thing to learn.
It is, especially when you have a young group, and I feel like we've been saying that for quite some time, and there are areas that we are getting over the hump, and there are improvements that are being made, but certainly it comes down to a rebound, it comes down to an execution, it comes down to one or two things that these young players are committed to continuing to get better at.
And now everybody's 0-0. That's the good thing going into this weekend at the Summit League tournament. Obviously a big opportunity, big challenge ahead of you with South Dakota State. What do you make of that matchup in the first round?
I think it's a good matchup for us. We were able to go down to Frost Arena and play a very competitive game in a hostile environment. Certainly the Summit League tournament will be no different. But as you said, it's kind of the third season to our season being the postseason play where everybody starts back at even.
And you never know what happens when you get to tournament play. We've seen wild things happen in the past, so good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
All right, stay with us here on the Bison Basketball Show. We continue to preview the Summit League tournament with the Bison Radio Network. That's after this. Welcome back to the Bison Basketball Show. We now bring in Jeff Culhane and Keith Brake from the Bison Radio Network to help us break down this Summit League tournament preview. And Jeff, let's start with you. For the men, important, I think, for the Bison men to get a victory on the road this past weekend before having to go play a tournament game, just because it's been a rough stretch for the Bison men in February.
Yeah, we talked a lot about last week being that mental health week for NDSU, and going on the road, playing Western Illinois. Didn't play great last Thursday night, losing 82-74, but it was a get-right game, I think, on Saturday down in Omaha. Senior day, weren't sure how the Bison were going to respond after losing 6 consecutive in Summit League play, and NDSU played great. They played one of their best games in over a month. They started shooting the basketball extremely well in the first 13 minutes of the game, Brian. They shot 72% from the field and 7 of 10 from 3, and really set the tone for the matchup. So North Dakota State needed that one in a big-time way, and you could see the sense of relief after the game on the bus, on the plane ride home, because this has been a team that's been starving for a victory. They got it. Hopefully they can bottle all that mojo up and bring it with them to Sioux Falls to the Summit League tournament.
And despite everything, the Bison are the 5 seed, which all in all isn't that bad, which is pretty encouraging.
Yeah.
Keith, on the other side for the women, a chance to get up to the 6th seed, avoid one of the South Dakota schools in the first round. The Bison unable to do it. 2-point loss at home against Omaha. I know they were a little disappointed afterwards. Even Western Illinois is just a 1-point game. That would have been, I think, a better matchup in the first round of the tournament, but at least North Dakota State over the last 3 weeks has shown it can be competitive in spurts against pretty much everybody.
Right. The whole season's almost been like the tale of Sisyphus, where he's rolling the boulder up the hill, and you do all that work, and you get really close, and then the boulder rolls right back down the hill, and you start all over. And NDSU has been able to get into positions to compete in games. It's just they haven't been able to get that last bit of work to get the proverbial boulder over the top. Against Western Illinois, the offense has been great. They've been in a flow. They've been in a rhythm, but they couldn't get any defensive stops. Against Omaha over the weekend, they got the defensive stops. The defensive intensity was there, but they couldn't really get any offense going. They couldn't get any separation. Omaha went without a point for 4 minutes 3 different times in the second half, and the Bison just couldn't capitalize on those opportunities. Everybody's still pretty optimistic. When you talk to the coaches, you talk to the players, there aren't a lot of hanging heads. There aren't a lot of people who are saying, woe is me, and what are we going to do now that we've got South Dakota State in the Summit League tournament? But it's just a matter of, golly, what have we got to do to get over the top and turn all this growth that we've been seeing in practice into results on the floor.
And we heard Riley Jacobson even say afterwards, Keith, hey, we got nothing to lose. We're going to go down there. We got to play loose. We know we're the underdog, and we'll see what happens. We'll toss it up. Looking ahead to the first round matchup for the men against Fort Wayne, I don't know, Don's playing about as well as anybody, and are probably as dangerous as anyone with the way John Conchar is playing right now, Jeff. That will be an interesting matchup between these two teams. Two teams I think have some pretty high aspirations going down to Sioux Falls.
Well, I think one of the things, and you hit it on the head, offensively, this is as talented of a team in the league on the men's side. With John Conchar, Bryson Scott is the second leading scorer in the league, a slasher, a guy that gets to the free throw line a ton. And I think Kaysen Harrell is the most underappreciated player in the Summit League on the men's side. In the 2 games against NDSU, combined to make 12 three-pointers in 2 contests himself. So he's a tremendous talent. I think if Fort Wayne had any semblance of a defensive identity, this would be a team we'd be talking about in the upper tier. They're that good. They're that talented on the offensive end of the floor. As far as the matchup is concerned, I think NDSU in 2 contests this year has shown that they can score with Fort Wayne, but I don't know if that's how David Richman wants to go about this 3rd matchup this time around. I think the Bison need to play their brand of basketball defensively. I think if you can take something away from the Omaha win this past weekend, is I think NDSU played one of their better games defensively in quite some time. So I think for North Dakota State, I think they have to be a more defensive-oriented team. That execution has to be better. It has to be there, because I don't think you want to get into a scoring contest with Fort Wayne in a one-and-done type of scenario.
Last year was the exception, but typically we see scoring a little bit harder to come by once you get to tournament time. So we'll see if that plays out again coming up here this coming weekend. Keith, just one quick thought from you on the Bison women, their season, and maybe the improvements you've seen from Game 1 to Game 28.
Well, I think a lot of the improvement that you've seen is psychological, in that they're not folding that the way that they might have last year when a team got 8 baskets in 9 possessions. They didn't fold, they didn't quit, they kept playing, they keep their heads up, and that bodes well for the program going forward. It's just a matter of translating all of that into results has been really difficult for them. And against South Dakota State in the Summit League tournament, they've been competitive. They know that they've been competitive with this team. They took them to the wire last year with a lot of these same players who were going to be on the floor on Saturday. And they were down 4 at the half at Frost Arena in Brookings earlier in the year back in January. So they can compete with this team, but they've got to get off to a strong start. And again, the fits and starts that this program has experienced all season long, those kind of have to be smoothed out. Now is the time when you smooth those out and get them squared away for what could be a very competitive game on Saturday.
Yeah, and avoid those 5-minute stretches where they have trouble scoring. Guys, Thanks so much. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you down in Sioux Falls.
Thanks, Brian. Sounds great.
Stay with us here on the Bison Basketball Show. We will wrap things up and get you ready for tournament play after this.
The Bison Basketball Show on Midco Sports Network is presented by NODAC Insurance Company, Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, and Proceed.
Back to close out this episode of the Bison Basketball Show, and we got you covered for the Summit League tournament on Midco Sports Network. Our coverage of quarterfinal action starts on Saturday afternoon, and the North Dakota State women will take on South Dakota State in the opening session with a start time of approximately 2:30 p.m. at the Denny Sanford Premier Center. The Bison men will tip off on Sunday evening at 6 o'clock. And remember, all quarterfinal and semifinal games can be seen on Midco SN, so please join us then. Enjoy the games, everybody. See you next time.